So you've decided you want to move to Canada. How? Let's dive in and see where you should start, what to expect, and most importantly, how you can do it without expensive immigration consultants' help. This is Canada.ca website. This is the official Government of Canada website. This is a Pandora box of all immigration programs available with step-by-step instructions on how to apply. All information is here for free. In fact, you can just use this website to go through the entire immigration process without any immigration lawyer. This is where you can find all requirements for all documents needed, and this is the website where you create your profile once you're ready to apply for any visa, and this is where you pay your visa processing fees. My goal is to create a simple and easy to follow step-by-step guide for you. In order to do that, I will generalize some information and also provide you with some credible resources for future deeper research. Look at this. There are 5 categories of people who can realistically move to Canada these days. A skilled and experienced professional, young and rich, someone who wants to start a business or is a rare talent, a refugee or affected by war, and a sponsored individual. Do you see yourself in any of these categories? Next, I'm going to describe each of these categories. There are chapters in this video, so feel free to skip to the chapter that interests you the most. Skilled Professional is the most vast program available for people with experience in most in-demand professions, with education and desire to come to Canada. If we look at this page, you will see that there is a program for people who want to move to a specific province. This is called PNP, Provincial Nominee Program. There is a separate program for Quebec, for Atlantic provinces, for people working as caregivers, for those who want to live in rural Canada or northern parts of Canada, for people working in agriculture, and people who want to live in a francophone community outside of Quebec. Wow, that's a lot! A lot to choose from. There's even more options. If you go back one step and choose work, you can get a closed work permit if you find an employer who is willing to hire you from outside of Canada. A closed work permit means that you can only work for that specific employer for the given period of time. If I were to highlight the 3 biggest opportunities for skilled worker immigration, there are 3 pathways that stand out: Express Entry Program, Provincial Nominees Program, and any program that allows you to come to Canada with a job offer. So let's briefly talk about each. For Express Entry and Provincial Nominees Program are based on a point system, which is called Comprehensive Ranking System Score, or simply CRS score. If you go here, Express Entry, how Express Entry system works, if you have experience in or outside Canada or in skilled trades, this program is for you. So here is a brief of how comprehensive ranking system works. You collect points for your education, knowledge of French or English, professional experience, and other factors like do you know both French and English? Do you have a relative in Canada? Are you coming to Canada alone or with your spouse, etc., etc. You can fill in a questionnaire right here on Canada.ca website and get your score completely for free, and you don't need a fancy immigration lawyer to do that. The score is the single metric that defines whether or not you will be selected for immigration. More on that in just a minute. Now, as for PNP, it's pretty much identical to the Express Entry we've just talked about, except you need to commit to working and living in a specific province for the first couple of years. You will need to write a letter of intent and convince the government why this province is the best province in Canada for you and that you will stay there. Some provinces even require you to have a job offer to qualify. If the province sees that you're a good fit, they will nominate you by giving you additional points towards your CRS score for Express Entry. As you've probably guessed, the more points you have, the higher your chances are to be selected and invited to go through a formal process of applying for permanent residency in Canada, which is mostly a set of administrative and bureaucratic steps to prove that you are who you are and provide supporting documents. All of these steps can also be found here in Apply for Permanent Residence, and that's when you will have to pay for your application if you're selected. Everything you have done up until now will have been completely free. All information on this website is free. So how many points do you need? You can find it on Canada.ca website. Everything is here, guys. It's the single best resource for everything. They officially post recent rounds of invitations and what score people who got invited had. You can see that the bar is set pretty high these days. But eventually these numbers might go down, or they might go higher, you never know. Another thing to note is that they prioritize inviting people based on their profession and education. It's called category-based selection. For instance, these days Alberta prioritizes technology, agriculture, construction, tourism and hospitality. So majority of express entry draws for Alberta will be professions in those fields. If at this point you are a bit lost and not sure if you stand a chance in this category, let me draw a generalized image of an ideal candidate for skilled worker immigration. Realistically speaking, you are someone single at the age of 20 to 29 with a master's degree, fluent English or French. If you speak English, it's nice to have a decent knowledge of French as well, or vice versa. You must also have more than 3 years of professional experience in your field. And if you have a sibling who is a resident or a citizen of Canada, that's a very nice bonus to have. Not mandatory, of course, but it will increase your chances of being selected from the rest of other candidates. If you have a spouse, all the same applies to you and your spouse. And ideally, you want to have a partner with similar profile to maximize your chances. Otherwise, unfortunately, your spouse will be sort of dragging you down. If you're in skilled trades, an ideal profile is practically the same, except you don't need a master's degree. However, you do need a job offer from a Canadian employer or a certificate of qualification issued by a Canadian federal or provincial authority. You can read about it all in detail here on this page, and I will also leave a link to it below. Of course, there are other programs like Atlantic or Rural Immigration Pilot Program that are similar to this. I won't go into detail, but just know that all of these versions of skilled worker immigration programs are available here. And the same principle applies. You go on the page, look through requirements, note if this applies to you or not, check how to apply, and follow the steps. Easy and free. Another skilled worker pathway is simply finding a job in Canada from abroad. Well, not so simply actually. In my experience, in order to succeed in this pathway, you will need to speak French or English language very well. You will preferably have a niche or a rare type of experience in your profession, because this will be likely the biggest factor for a Canadian employer to decide to go through LMIA to get you hired from abroad. LMIA is the process an employer will need to go through in order to prove to the Canadian government that they have made all efforts in finding someone in Canada. They couldn't find that person, and that's why they're hiring you. It is a time and financial commitment from the employer. That is why I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to be a professional with some exceptional experience or unique specialization. Networking for this pathway is also critical, since you will want to build a reputation and trust with the employer. One way to increase your chances is to look for employers in less populated parts of Canada. Your chances may be higher since it's more difficult to find workers from more remote and less popular regions. Keep in mind that establishing reputation and trust will be key, no matter where you want to work in Canada. If you want to learn more about LMIA and looking for a job from outside of Canada, check out this video. You can find the link to it in the description box below as well. There are many other programs that I haven't mentioned in this video because they're less popular and are very specific. But now you know where to look for information, and you can continue your research here. If you have further specific questions and you cannot find answers to them on your own on the website, that's when you may choose to consult with a licensed immigration lawyer or consultant. But keep in mind, since immigration professionals make money on application preparation, they are all secretly willing to convince you that you stand a chance and you should apply no matter what your chances are. That is why we highly recommend to get an idea of what your chances are using the free resources available on Canada.ca website, and come prepared to your conversation and ask the consultant the right questions. I'm not the immigration lawyer or consultant. I have no service to sell you. This video is for information purposes only, to guide you where to start and give you a gist of what immigration to Canada looks like. How do you find a licensed immigration lawyer? You can check that on Canada.ca website. Here's where you can check if your lawyer or consultant has a license. They won't scam you, take your money and feed you with promises, or even worse, disappear. If you've just graduated from high school and you or your parents have enough funds to support your education in Canada, then the best thing you can do is get a study permit, or a student visa, as some might call it. It is beneficial to be young when moving to Canada. First of all, younger people adapt to changes easier and learn faster, and that increases their chances of integrating successfully into the new society. Secondly, once you finish your education in Canada, you can gain Canadian experience and apply for PR. And at the moment of applying for permanent residency, your young age will be beneficial. It's also nice to be rich, and your money will go farther in Canada than in many other countries. Education in Canada is cheaper than in the US, Australia, or the UK, while the quality of education is pretty high. Nevertheless, it requires a big upfront investment. You will have to pay for your terms in advance and have enough money to live in Canada. Recently, Canadian government nearly doubled the funds to bring with you to Canada as an international student. You will need to show proof of funds of at least $20,000 in the bank. What if you're not a fresh high school graduate? Technically, there is no age limit to getting accepted at a university and applying for a study permit, but it needs to make sense overall. If you are an engineer in your 40s and you're applying for an engineering bachelor in Canada or an unrelated degree, it doesn't make sense and your chances won't be very high. But if your university application builds on your professional and experience you already have, that makes stronger case and increases your chances of getting a study permit. To read about study permit, you will go to, surprise, surprise, Canada.ca website, Immigration and Citizenship tab, and choose Study. You can learn more about the process and use this page to start your application. I want to highlight that no matter the immigration program you are looking at, there is always a page on how to apply with a step-by-step process of what's required. All you need is a bit of time to read and research to start your journey to Canada. Now let's go to a businessman or a businesswoman or someone with a rare talent. This category of people typically has the skills and means to significantly contribute to Canadian economy. Let's go back to the tab Immigrate and scroll down to see these two major options: Startup Visa and Self-Employed. Startup Visa. If you're a business person who wants to launch a startup in Canada and employ Canadians, this is a great option. All you need is to receive investments from a Canadian designated organization and speak French or English. You can learn more information about your options and apply right here through the website if this is for you. If you don't want to start a business, but you possess an exceptional talent, for instance, you're a professional athlete, an artist, or a person with outstanding academic or research accomplishments, you can come to Canada through a self-employed visa. It's pretty self-explanatory. You must be healthy and have clear police record, and if you're willing to come to Canada and contribute to Canadian culture and sports, this visa might be for you. You can just go ahead, click on how to apply, and follow the instructions. A refugee or affected by war. I combined these in one general group. However, these are two different cases. I'm generalizing in order to simplify a huge amount of information. A refugee is someone who has been forced to flee their own country because of personal persecution, war, or violence. If you feel like your life is in danger in your home country because of who you are or what you do, you could come to Canada as a refugee. I made a detailed video about it here. If you want to know more, please find the link to this video in the description box below and watch it. The biggest point to keep in mind is that getting a refugee status is not easy and quick as it seems. You have to show legitimate proof that you are personally facing persecution, risks, and violence in your home country. While we are here in the tab Immigrate to Canada, scroll down, click on Refugees, and read through information provided here. There is also a separate pathway for skilled refugees as well. You can learn all the information by clicking on the link here. Now let's talk about individuals affected by war. Oftentimes there is a message right here at the top of the page with the most recent update. Unfortunately, there are multiple conflicts happening in the world these days. Canada has a response program to help people affected by those conflicts. This can be in the form of a temporary open work permit to Canada, or a special resettlement program, or prioritized fast processing of application. If you see your country in this list, click and read through the program specific to your home country. You might have a chance to come to Canada based on these programs. You could get a sponsorship visa to Canada. That means that you have a sponsor who is a Canadian citizen or a resident who will vouch for you and bear your expenses here in Canada for the first few years. There is a set of minimum requirements, including financial commitments for the sponsor to meet. Let me show you how to navigate this program on Canada.ca website. I'm going to Immigration and Citizenship tab, and next I click on Immigrate. I immediately see here tab Family Sponsorship. Once your sponsor is ready to make such a commitment, they would go here, click on Sponsor Your Relatives, read through instructions and follow them. If you're a spouse or a partner of a Canadian resident or citizen, if you're a child, an adopted child, a parent or grandparent, this is for you. This was your Introduction to Immigration to Canada course. Thank you for watching. Next, head over to the description box below this video to find useful links, or watch this video to help you answer the question, should I move to Canada? Was this video useful? If yes, just click the like button below to let me know it was helpful. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.